One challenge with electric design is handling the trade-off between true-scale drawing accuracy compared with creating readable design drawings. Consider that in the real world, a trench might be 3 feet wide, containing 3 cables, each in their own duct. The center lines of the ducts are inches apart. Within AUD, you can define a segment to represent the trench, and that segment can contain multiple ducts. Each of those ducts can contain 1 or more cables, but normally within AUD, it draws as a single line, and you only see the contents in quick info. Some utilities try to draw such parallel cables by offsetting them from the trench in their design drawings. You can do this in AUD, but it can create problems. Length measurements may not be accurate. Things may not connect properly. With underground lines, conduit bends may be ordered when you didn't want them ordered. And with overhead lines, poles may be inserted where they don't actually exist. However, AUD has the technology to solve this problem in an elegant fashion by using the expand edit, and the collapse functions. And with some minor configuration or some more advanced customization, you can further tailor these functions to simplify the design for users. I'll create a simple test case to start. On the screen, you see a switch, a handhold, 3 single-phase transformers, 1 for each phase, and a service point. And in this sample configuration, I've already drawn empty trenches between the components. I'll select one of the trenches, and you can see in quick info that indeed the trench is currently empty. I'll first use the Add Primary Line with Duct to Segment command. I'll select 3 trenches for this first cable to indicate that the conductor goes from the switch to the A-phase transformer, and then I'll press Enter to stop entering that particular conductor. The command is still running, so I'll add another cable that runs from the switch up to the B-phase transformer, adding it to the trenches indicated. I press Enter again to stop this command. And now I'll run a third cable from the switch on the left side to the C-phase transformer, adding it to these 3 trench segments. And I'll press Enter to finish the command. OK, now I'll select the first trench again, and you can see that it contains the 3 cables, each in their own conduit. If I select one of the cables, it's connected at one end to the switch and the other end to the transformer. It's worth noting that this cable's starting and ending connections were automatically established by a connectivity rule, which may be the subject of another video at some point. But if I look at my design, it's hard to tell what's going on because all the cables in the trenches are stacked on top of one another. So now I'll run the schematic expand command. When I run this command, it first asks if I want to expand lines, ducts, or both. I'll just select lines. Next, it asks me to select one or more segments. I'll select this segment here, which contains all 3 cables. And now Expand is asking for a distance and implicitly a side. I'll enter 3 for the distance and click on this side here. The cables expand so I can see them. Now let's explore what's cool about the expand functionality. I'll run the expand edit command. This isn't on the ribbon, so I'll type it in at the command line. This command lets me select any expanded line and offset it based on its current alignment, the default offset interval. I'll use this command to tidy up my 3 expanded lines. Editing is not actually limited to the expand edit command. I can also do any kind of polyline editing with the expanded lines. So for example, I can add a vertex and place it near the end, and then make the expanded line bend to touch the switch. I can do this the same way with this other line, adding a vertex and then moving the endpoint so that it terminates at the intersection point of the switch or the transformer. Now one thing to note is that any adjustments I make to this cable are sticky. So I'll run the collapse command. I'll select all 3 segments to collapse, and it looks like it did just when we started. Now I'll rerun the expand command, select the segment, choose line, and simply hit Enter when prompted for distance, and the segments all expand back to their edited positions. That's it for the basics of expand, edit, and collapse. Here are some key points regarding the schematic functions. First, understand that AUD stores 2 separate geometries, one for what I'll call the true scale design, and the other for the schematic layout. The schematic functions apply to the components contained within segments. Using these functions, you can expand conductors or ducts or both items contained within segments. The expanded geometry can be modified without affecting the underlying data. This means, for example, that the conductor's length isn't going to be changed by adjusting the geometry in the schematic. And finally, there are configuration parameters that will be talked about in another video that are available to further configure the behavior. There's a lot more we can do with a little further customization. That'll be covered in another video.